I wanted to do this video in case there is anyone ever like me that looks to YouTube for someone with the same feelings that I had, because although there were videos about alopecia, there was no one directly speaking of their emotions, just explaining the medical parts of the condition. And I imagine if you're sitting and listening to this, it's because you or someone you know has alopecia. So I'm not going to sit and bore you with all the possible causes and cures, because I believe alopecia chooses to do what it wants when it wants. I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Emma Lynch, and when I created this video I was 16 years old. On the 22nd of March 2012 I lost my fight to alopecia, not because all my hair fell out, but because emotionally that was a risk that I couldn't bear to take anymore. I couldn't wake up and most of it be gone. It was a risk I felt like I'd already taken for too long. Alopecia didn't win in a way, but neither did I. So on Thursday the 22nd of March 2012 I placed my hair into a ponytail and I cut the ponytail off. I then continued to shave the remainder of my hair. This, more than anything, was relief for me, and I'm not saying because you have alopecia you should go and shave your hair, and neither am I saying you shouldn't. I made this decision solely based on how I felt, because this was my decision to make. It was no one else's. And believe me when I say it's the biggest and hardest decision you could ever make, and whichever decision you do choose to make, it could either be the best or the worst. But if it was to be the worst, everyone makes mistakes. I'm not going to lie to you and say that going out into the world as a 16-year-old female teenager is easy, because believe me when I say to start off with, it's a fight and people give you funny looks and wonder why you've done it. Some think you've done it as a joke, some think you've done it to raise money for charity, and some think you have cancer. No one ever stops to consider there might be an illness called alopecia hiding away inside. I'm in high school, in year 11, and everyone told me to wait until I was in a working environment, simply because they said kids can be cruel. But I knew that personally for me, if this was what I wanted, then I had to do it in the hardest situation possible. Because even if you choose to live life the easy way, eventually you'll be faced with a situation that emotionally challenges you further than you could expect. Doing what I've done, I've decided that if something does challenge me in the future, I should be able to handle it. I tell you now, walking out into the world for the first time ever with a shaved head was difficult. Half of me had my stomach turning and I felt dizzy, sick and scared. The other half of me had an adrenaline rush that felt like I was outside of my own body, watching someone else face the world as me. When you feel like crying because you lose some hair, you're not the only one. And when you sit there and think about shaving your hair off, you're not the only one either, because some of us choose to hide these feelings and lock them away, and others choose to act on them. Neither makes you a different type of person, it's just simply a different coping mechanism. Don't be scared to talk to people about the way you feel, and if you can't talk to someone in your family or one of your friends, then speak to someone who feels the same, because trust me when I say the sufferers of alopecia have probably felt like you do at some point in their life. I fought alopecia for a long time before I made the decision I did, and it wasn't some overnight decision. It took a lot of courage, and I guess in some ways people could say it took a sudden burst of stupidity. But for me, it wasn't really stupidity. I just had to follow what my heart was saying, and if I didn't do it when I did, it had probably been in 6 months' time. I wish so much that I didn't have alopecia, but as someone said to me before, you can't run forever because eventually you'll trip over and that's when it will catch you. I did run for a while, for what seemed like 100 marathons, but the finish line was never in sight, so I turned around and I saw the start line there. So I decided to make the start line into my finish line. To all the sufferers of alopecia out there, and to all the families supporting them, be brave or help them to be brave, be strong or help them to be strong, and smile.